Want to access Windows and Linux instances in Azure by using Azure AD credentials? Let's check in today's video. Like always, if you're liking these sessions, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this content. A lot of organizations, they've already adopted Azure Active Directory, and they want to use the credentials of Azure Active Directory to give access to the users for Windows and Linux instances. And that is where this option will come into play. In today's lab, I'm going to show you two ways. The first option is much more secured, but for the second option, which is going to be a workaround, but you'll still be able to access these instances by using Azure Active Directory credentials. So with this, let me flip on to the Azure portal and show you the steps. All right, so I'm logged into the Azure portal with my Azure Active Directory credential, as you can see, and I have the owner access for this subscription. Now, some of the prerequisite to enable this option is that you need to deploy an extension, and the image of the machine, if you're using server operating system, should be 2019 data center or later. And if it's a client operating system like Windows 10, it should be Windows 10 version 1809 or later. For this lab, I'm going to use an image which is Windows Server 22 Data Center Edition. So I've already populated some of the parameters, as you can see, but let me just show you. So the machine name is Server 22 Demo, and the image I'm utilizing is 22 Data Center Edition. Rest all the features or all the parameters I've already populated over here. But one thing that I want to show you that you need to change on your side is if I go under Management, I want to enable this option, which is Login with Azure Active Directory, because that is what we were going to test today. Rest everything you can leave to the default, and let's go to Review and Create. Okay, so I'm click on the Create button, and this machine will start building. And while this is getting built, as part of the deployment, an extension will get deployed for this machine, and we'll check actually when this machine is fully deployed. And also, as part of this today's lab, what I've done is there is already a machine with the name Windows 11 client. Now I want to access that server from this particular machine, and if I can show you, I'm going to use this command to see the status of this machine. So as I said that if you want to access from the machine, it should be either Azure AD joined, Azure AD registered, or hybrid AD joined. And if I can show you, this machine is not Azure AD joined and not also hybrid AD, but what we're going to do is we're going to register this machine into Azure Active Directory, and we'll try to RDP into that particular machine. So this is the lab. So this is going to be the first option, and after that is done, I'm also going to show you the workaround for the second option, which is going to be basically the machine, like my local machine, my local laptop, and it is not going to be in any of these registration form, like as I said, Azure AD joined, Azure AD registered, or hybrid AD, and still I should be able to access that, though it is not very secure. But now I will show you the workaround for that. But let's look at first option. But before we do that, let's see if that machine is ready or not. So its deployment is still in progress. So let's give it a few seconds before we can move to the further steps. Deployment is successful. So let me go to the resources. And if I go under settings, I see this extension option. And you can see as part of the deployment, because we checked that box for Azure AD credential, this get deployed. And by the way, this can be done either through Azure portal, the way I'm showing you, or through command line interface. So for that, let me go now to the access control IAM. And what I want to do is I want to give specific access to a user who should be able to RDP into the machine. Now this user is already under Azure Active Directory, and the access I want to give them, so basically there are two options. So you can give virtual machine administrator login, or you can give them virtual machine user login. So for this demonstration, I'm going to use as login as an administrator. And I'm going to select the member, and it's going to be user with the name test1. I'm going to select it and review and assign. Now, there might be also a question that, say, for example, if there is a user who has an owner or a contributor access onto this machine, will they automatically get access to RDP into the machine? So the answer is no, right? This is another layer of security which has been added, which is great in case you want to give access to these or RDP into the machine by using Azure Active Directory credential. So we're going to test this with the username test1, but before I do that, let me go to the machine, which is this Windows 11. So in order to register this to Azure Active Directory, what I'm going to do is, let me go to the settings. To make it full screen. And the way you're going to Azure AD register is by going under accounts and access work or school. And let me try to connect. Let me provide those credentials. So this is the user who should be able to RDP into that server 22. All right, so it seems to be done. Right, so let me just run this command one more time. So as you can see that before this machine was not Azure AD join and workplace joined is also no. But now once I run this, I should be able to see this under the user state as yes. So let me go and see that if I got those changes. So you can see that device ID. And if I go under the user state, you can see workplace joined is also yes, which is great, right? And actually you can verify this. Now, if I go on my portal and go to Azure Active Directory, I should be able to see that machine and the state of that machine. So if I go Azure Active Directory and under devices, go to all devices, you can see Windows 11 client. This is the machine we just registered basically. So that's what you see under the Azure Active Directory. So that's great. So now what I want to test now is if I am able to RDP into that machine. So for that, let me just get the RDP file for this machine. Let me just go and RDP, and I'm going to download this file. Okay, so let me just copy this, and I'm going to put this onto this client machine. All right, let me close it, and let's try to access this by using those credentials. All right, so just remember that it needs to be in this format, like Azure AD / the credential of that user. And here we go now. I'm able to access that server by using Azure Active Directory credential. And as I showed you for this machine, the device state joined is Azure AD registered. So it's basically now able to access with those user credentials. So that's great. Now this is option one. Now, as I said that, I'm also going to show you the other option, which might not be secure, but let me show you the workaround. So basically the idea is that now my local machine on which I am, so I can just go and basically minimize this, right? So I'm on my local machine, right? And still if I want to use that Azure Active Directory credential of test1, will I be able to do that? So for that, let me just show you the workaround. Now I'm going to open this RDP file that we have downloaded, and I'm going to open this in a notepad, and I'm going to make certain changes to this file, otherwise I won't be able to access it, right? So the change I'm going to make is I'm going to copy this 2 lines and add into this RDP file, right? I want to save it. So this has been changed. So that's one thing. But actually, let me show you the workflow, right? So if I want to access now from my local machine, I'm not on my local machine. This is not Azure AD registered or domain joined or hybrid AD joined, right? Let me show you, you'll get an error, right? So you see it requires network level authentication. Now the error it is giving you because there is an extra layer of security which I want to disable. So I'm on my server 22. If you see under operations, I have run command. I want to disable that network level authentication. As I said, again, this is not a very secured way, right? But let me show you in case you want to quickly access that. So I'm going to run this script basically and to disable that network level authentication. And let's see then if we will be able to access this machine by RDPing into that. Okay, waiting for this script to run and see the output as successful. Okay, so while you disable this network level authentication, the VM automatically gets restarted, which is okay. So let's wait for this changes to take place. Restart the machine. Boot it. So now let's try to access by using the same RDP file to which we made the changes. I'm going to provide the credentials again, and just remember this is my local machine. This is not Azure AD registered or hybrid AD joined or Azure AD joined. Okay, just want to make sure I put everything properly, and let's try to provide the password. And here we go. Now we are also able to access that from our local machine, though I said that it's not the very secured way, but the first option is much more robust. So this is the way how you can enable your access to machine, both Windows and Linux, by using Azure AD credentials. Hopefully you like